Hello, welcome to Diane's Corner. We are back at it again today, breaking down the steps that we talked about last week when it comes to improving the relationships in your life. Welcome to Diane's Corner. We're going to be diving into what we were discussing last week. So just the first step, though. And if you are the kind of person who believes that you have a certain amount of control over your own life, you have agency in your life, and you also believe that the relationships in your life are significant and important and you want to improve them, then you're in the perfect place, because we're going to be talking about how to improve the relationships around you by first improving the relationship with yourself. Because there is you, the human, having this experience, but there's also you, the observer of yourself, having the experience. So if you are a person who believes that you have control over your own life, you have agency over your own life, and you believe that relationships are important, then eventually you're going to want to improve the relationships around you, especially the ones that are meaningful. Then we're going to dive into the first understanding that's required for improving relationships. And I'm just going to wait here until Pat arrives. So if you are Pat and you have arrived, please mention it in the comments so that I could know. Otherwise, I'm just going to continue talking about what we're going to do here in Diane's Corner, where we are learning on how to live a whole, full life. And when I say whole, full life, I mean like we are intentional about growing ourselves emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Oh, hey, Pat. Okay, I see you in the chat now. So we are going to be breaking down the steps that I talked about last week. And so today we're going to be spending more time on that first understanding, which is there's no good or bad emotion. Yeah. So I have my notes again. And one thing that I also want to mention is that for the next 30 minutes or so, I would hope that this is extremely valuable for you and it's the best 30 minutes of your day. Okay, so that's where I'm going for. And hopefully you'll leave here today with clarity and direction regarding the topic that we are discussing today. And so just a reminder, the purpose of this content is for somebody who has agency over their own life and for someone who appreciates the relationships around them, and especially the ones that are meaningful, that they want to improve the relationships. And the best way to do that is to start with the relationship with oneself, because there is us, the person having all of these like 50,000 thoughts a day, reactions to the world around them. And then there's also another part of you that's the observer that can watch the self having all of the thoughts and the emotions. And so for the observer and the person to have a good relationship, I mean, that's what I mean by relationship with self. It's like what are the thoughts that are going on in the head speaking about when it comes to the self or the world around them or others. Like there's a relationship to be had with the self, and these concepts are definitely better suited to be practiced and mastered on the self before practicing it on other people. I hope that made sense. So the first step, understanding that I mentioned last week to improve relationships is, I mean, this isn't easy. It's not going to be easy. It's going to take self-reflection. It's going to take a lot of pausing and breathing. So I'd like to do some breathing right now, maybe to get present and to get to this place, because you could have been anywhere today, right now, and you decided to be here. So I honor that and I thank you. And let's breathe. Okay, so take a few counts of an inhale, and I'm going to do this together with you. And then let it out with a sigh. So I just renamed the channel, and you could keep breathing. Nice, long, deep breaths into the belly. I renamed the channel recently to Presence Presents, because when we get present to what's going on in the moment, then we get presented with gifts many times. So part of that is being open to whatever the present moment wants to give us, whatever life wants to present to us. And a great way to get present is to breathe. So I hope you took at least 5 nice, deep belly breaths with great big sighs to kind of settle you into this moment. And so, talking about emotions, we're looking at it from an energetic perspective. So there's high vibration energy and there's low vibration energy. And emotions fall into a spectrum of high vibration to low vibration. And all of the spectrum, neither are good nor bad. So here is a list of some high vibration. Oh no, it's backwards. I need to figure out how to make it into a mirror. So we got high vibration emotions. There's serenity, peace, joy, reverence. These are the emotions that fill us up. Oh, it looks right from here. Great. So it's just a mirror for me then. Yeah, these are really great. They fill us up and they've been associated with good because it feels good, right? And then here's a list of some low vibration emotions that have oftentimes been associated with bad because they definitely are draining. And we don't want to get stuck in any of these vibrations. And the reason why I say that there are no good or bad emotions, even like hate, like how can that be not a bad thing? Well, there are certain situations in life where these low vibration emotions, they're actually the appropriate response. Can you think of any situations that you've experienced recently that require actually a low vibration reaction? I mean, I, for one, hate being lied to. So when I find out that I got lied to, I'm not going to feel peace or joy, right? And actually, if I don't allow myself to feel like disappointment or frustration or anger, that is actually not allowing the energy to move. Too often, Pat says, someone doing something to make me angry. My daughter-in-law was mistreating my son. It makes me very angry. Yes. And so to deny yourself of that anger is not standing up for your son, who's, your loved one, it's totally invalidating the experience, and it's totally appropriate to feel angry in that situation. You care about her too, but she makes you angry. Yeah, that will happen, right? Relationships sometimes bring out really the ugly side of us because it's like a completely different person with their own way of thinking. And so this is why this, oh my gosh, this is why this is important. Because a lot of times, instinct, people who haven't done this type of work, instinct says to avoid avoid these negative feelings. Um, Maybe they will run away from the situation or run away and do something else and not think about it. Another um, reaction is self medicate, because a lot of times these lower vibration emotions, they don't feel good. So people go to self medicating, or they will lash out, right? Because these lower vibration emotions, they don't feel good. A lot of times people don't know how to express or just sit in those that energy, right? So these are common ways for people to deal with it, and this is not the way that we want to go. This is like when it goes bad, because people aren't allowing themselves to express or feel or acknowledge the lower vibration emotions. And then that energy, it can't move, right? Emotions, motion. It's energy in motion through your body. And even from the latest science, is it extends outside of your body like 6 feet. Um, if you don't allow the energy to move and be in motion, then it gets stuck and it becomes the baggage that people carry around for their whole life. And then they have to spend years doing the work, years in therapy, letting go of the baggage, finally letting the emotions, the energy move through them. A lot of times it'll bring tears, and that's a really healthy sign when people are doing this work. How does it go outside your body? That's what Pat is asking in the chat. It goes outside of your body. Some people call it an aura. They found that, like through heart studies, when we communicate through action, yeah, um, there's definitely verbal and nonverbal communication. uh, Somebody could see you from a long distance away, but I'm talking about the vibrational frequency that is emitted through from our hearts. It extends past our physical body. So they had studies where somebody will they'll move people closer to each other and see when there will be some physiological changes in one person, and they found that it happens when they're 6 feet apart from each other. Um, yeah, so that's uh, that's part of the reason why it's so important to have physical contact and be in relation with others and be in the same space. So it's one of the unfortunate things about the whole social distancing thing, because it actually makes a really big difference, being around each other uh, physically. And it could be subtle, the effects of it, but yeah, it's really cool what Heart Math Institute is doing, finding out what is what our bodies are capable of. Can people feel this radiation? Maybe people who are very sensitive to it. Um, yeah, I don't think that it's common that people can feel it. Maybe they'll feel something if they are highly practiced or very sensitive to it. Yeah. Yeah. So there are, does this mean we need to stop Zooming if we want complete good community? Yes. We need to get back into physical communication, face to face. And it really does a lot for people socially. Like, I remember Jordan Peterson was having an interview with somebody, and they were talking about how the government in Canada reacted to the pandemic and how they just started having meetings on Zoom, and how that did a big disservice to the country because when everyone goes actually to the same physical location, they share meals together, they relate to each other as humans. But when that's gone and they're just interacting with each other through Zoom, uh, they don't maybe have the same formalities or anything, or the importance of the relationship. It just, nothing beats physical face-to-face interactions. So hopefully we can have more of that. Yeah, so it becomes bad. Emotions become bad when you don't allow them and you don't allow them to move. This is um, what people fall back on naturally, because it's like, this is how people in TV shows react, the programming. And we don't we don't learn how to deal with emotions in school. For later, can you explain your new name for your channel? Yes, Pat, I will explain the name again. I'm playing with the names to find one that's good. Yeah, so have you ever had somebody nag at you for something that you just aren't going to change? Like they're nagging at you and nagging at you. Of course, that could feel upsetting. It could feel annoying and frustrating, especially if it's somebody that, like, they're going to be in your life, whether it's your parents or your significant other. Pat asks, what does it say about how we absorb and understand what we see on TV? It's called programming for a reason. I definitely can see how I've been programmed by Disney, watching all those Disney movies growing up. And it's really a shame. And I'm glad I was able to eventually identify it. What must be incomplete? Um, yeah, because the programs are created by people, and it doesn't show the whole story. It just shows a situation. And a lot of times their intentions might not be the best. And they're not going to be teaching how to deal with emotions for the most part. It would be great if there is a program that teaches how to deal with emotions. And if there is, please definitely let me know. Our ability to understand and decide whether to accept or treat as authentic what we see. Yes. What a skill it is to be able to uh, identify what is true and what is false. And that is getting harder by the day because there is a war going on for our minds where the intention is for people, the masses, to understand what is false to be true and what is true to be false. And so it is ever more important to stay grounded in this time and stay focused. And I think even have like a ruthless prioritization with life, because with all this confusion going on, it's so easy to fall back into comfort when this is the time where the world needs us the most. Yes. Uh, Analyze what you watch all the time and stay grounded in your morals and your values. Um, so going back to emotions, I said that I wanted you to have clarity and direction by the end of this video. So for clarity, when it comes to emotions, I really want to emphasize the idea, which is the main idea. There's no good or bad emotion. Emotions are signals that something is very important, especially when it's a low vibration emotion. Those are the ones that are more tricky, right? Because it's easy to get stuck there, especially with our negativity bias, where our brains want to focus on the things that are bad, because it's a evolutionary instinct to survive. Our brains want to find out the negative and remember it so that we don't die, right? But that's not very necessary in our society today with the advancements that we have now. So yeah, when it comes to negative emotion, low vibration emotion, there's something to be learned there. And it could be about yourself. So when I say clarity for this episode, this is what you need to know. All emotions are valid. The point is to not get stuck. So what you can do is try to figure out the value, like what is it that's making you feel a low vibration emotion? Try to find the value that's making you feel that way. That's important to you. That's making you feel that way. And going back to how to practice this on yourself before another person, the relationship with yourself is like the observer. This is the point where you're going to have to, in real time in your life, observe when you get into negative emotion or low vibration emotion. Observe, and this is the direction. So you know that there's no good or bad emotion. All emotions are valid. So what you can do with that in your real life, in real time, is observe your emotions, right? And the way that you can do that, Pat, as can we lie to ourselves? Yes, but it's always going to come back to you. And many times it's in the form of cognitive dissonance. For example, society is very divided at this time, and people have gone all in certain ways of thinking. And sometimes those are lies that are said to themselves. And eventually, if they keep their blinders on and keep going down that route, then they could lie to themselves. But if they get enough information, I mean, it's gonna come out. Like, I think any bad thing, I think that's like a philosophy that I have accepted and live by, is everything comes back around, whether it's a lie, whether it's a deed, whether it's anything. It's gonna come back around. The point is, though, to try not to lie to yourself. Right? I think that's one of the reasons why I really appreciate Jordan Peterson, is he says live in truth, because the consequences, there's no better consequence, even if it's a bad consequence, by telling the truth. Like, that is the best thing that could have ever happened. I wonder if I answered your question, Pat. Observe your emotions, and you can observe your emotions by looking at your body and your voice, because the body doesn't lie. Like, the thoughts can lie, the body doesn't lie. Even a child that is told by their parent that they are actually a boy when they're a girl or bad when they are good and normal. How long does it take to find the truth? Ooh. Sometimes it doesn't take long, and sometimes it takes a long time. It just depends on that person and the journey that they have in their life. And I would hope, that people find truth faster than later, especially if they're a child. I know many people who were terrorized as kids. Like, some of them, they rejected it right away, and so even as children, they were able to see, like, this is right and this is wrong. And I really, like, I'm like, wow, when I hear about those stories. And then there's people that never get out of it. So it just depends. And when it comes to the direction of what to do with our emotions, like, we know that they're not good or bad, and we're going to observe them by looking at our body language, our voice. Is our volume getting louder? Are we speaking more quickly because our energy is going up? Then that says, like, oh, I'm feeling something. Then the other thing is to acknowledge them, acknowledge your emotions. There's something that I think it's more normal or typical for a child to believe that their parents tell them. Yeah, they're kids, so they usually just accept what they're told by any person of authority, unless they've had some abuse or something. Then they usually don't accept authority. Yeah, so acknowledge them. This is very important to be able to do with yourself. And I used to make this mistake when I am practicing this on other people. Well, before I would practice, because I didn't know, is that let me give you this example of being in the car with somebody driving, and they get cut off, and then they're pissed. And I used to try to reason with their emotion, like reason with their anger, saying, oh, you shouldn't be so mad, because they probably are rushing to the hospital, or look at their car, like, their life is worse off than yours. Like, don't be mad. And you cannot reason with the emotions. That's part that in that situation, I was suppressing somebody else's emotion. And that's why this work is really important to understand for the self first. Now, I know when I get really upset when I'm driving, like, I can breathe, pause, and breathe through it, and then observe, like, oh, I'm observing that I feel this way, or that feels interesting. Oh, I'm upset, right? You observe it and then you acknowledge it. And once I was able to learn this, now when I'm with somebody who gets upset for something reasonably, then I'm like, oh, I could observe it and I could acknowledge it. Like, wow, that made you mad. Like, that's really annoying. And I can support them. I can validate their emotions instead of saying, oh, you shouldn't feel like that. Why are you so mad? These are that instinct, but put onto another person. So if we want to improve the relationship with other people, then we have to understand emotions and how to deal with them. There's high vibration emotions and low vibration emotions. that are neither good nor bad unless we get stuck there. Right. Pat says, calm down. That is not, that's not observing and acknowledging. That's trying to suppress somebody, and that never calms them down. That's exactly right. So, in that kind of situation, especially if it's somebody that you love or that you want to improve the relationship with them, go here. Observe and acknowledge. And you can even support them by saying something like, I would feel that way too if somebody did that to me. Right? Then it would feel like they're not alone. Um, so that is what I had for you today. We talked about that there is no good or bad emotion, and what to do when when you are faced with some low vibration emotions that people usually deem as bad, which it's bad if you don't allow it to move through you. Actually, you'll notice that if you allow the energy to move, then it doesn't really last that long. It could be uncomfortable momentarily, but to observe it and acknowledge it. Observe it by looking at your body, your voice, and practice on yourself before you put that on somebody else. And imagine how your relationship can improve with your significant other or your family member if instead of suppressing their emotions because you didn't know how to deal with your emotions, that you can observe and acknowledge their emotions and support them. Thank you for joining me today in Diane's Corner, and we'll see you again soon. Oh, comment what really stood out today, um, and or what really helped. Thanks for joining me. Bye.